Part 1, Question 3, Article 7, whether God is altogether simple. We're getting to the heart of this question here. A mechanical alarm clock is complex. Lots of different moving parts. You could picture it. Now try to picture the opposite. The simplest thing you can imagine. How about that aluminum sphere? I used this example before. Pure aluminum, no moving parts. Pretty simple, right? Wrong. First of all, you could break that element down into electrons, protons, neutrons, maybe into quarks. Or, even if you don't know about that chemistry stuff, you could still talk, we've said before, about the left half of the sphere versus the right hemisphere. How about this? Is your sphere spinning? Maybe you categorize it along with other spinning things, or maybe with non-spinning things. Or is it a large sphere or an old sphere? Turns out this sphere is not simple at all. And just think about all the other ways you could squeeze it into different categories. Electrically conductive things. Is it magnetic? Is it new? Is it shiny? Does it roll? Etc., etc., etc. So I ask again, is God altogether simple? Yes, says Augustine. God is truly and absolutely simple. Returning to basics, you could, with the right tool, cut any sphere in half. It would be difficult with a piece of aluminum, but even more difficult, yet possible, with a planet. You could never cut off a piece of God. Objection 1. But how could this be? God is the first cause of all things, and all things are in some ways composite. All things are made of matter and form. And, oh yeah, that's what we said about that aluminum sphere when I used the example before. We talked about separating the aluminum part of it from the spherical part of it, the matter part from the form part. And this might seem like a weak objection. We'll see what Thomas does with it in a moment. Objection 2, complex things are better. They are more developed, more advanced, better than simple things. If God is perfect, shouldn't he be perfectly complex instead of perfectly simple? Not so, says St. Thomas. Quote, the absolute simplicity of God may be shown in many ways. And he lists 5 proofs, and to my mind, the most accessible, so the one I'll talk about here, is the fact that every composite object has a cause. We're back to God, the uncaused first cause. Thomas also discusses 2 cubits of water. Imagine that, 2 cups or 2 cubits of water. 1 cubit is part of the whole. The other cubit is part of the whole, but the 2 cubits is not part of the whole. Quote, in every composite there is something that is not itself, but God is pure form. See, Thomas is drilling down again to the problem. Things, objects. God is not a thing or an object in the universe. A white ball is not just white, and it's also not just a ball. It's both. It's composite. It has sphericalness and whiteness or color as 2 different parts of it. God is not like that. Reply to objection 1. That's the way things may imitate their causes. We do so as things. We are composite. Things imitate their causes. And for things, complexity is better than simplicity. Machines get more complex over time. The point here being made is that God is not a thing, but we are. God is not a thing that can be categorized in the universe, but I am and you are too. Human beings can be categorized in the universe. And that points to how we as human beings, as composite entities, must approach God to become more like our cause, to become more like our Maker. We must approach him through his grace. We can't make ourselves more complex to become more like God. We must be filled with his grace and his goodness. And again, since we're talking about the simplicity of God, what about the Trinity, the dogma of the Trinity? We'll have to wait until question 31, but Thomas will get there. 1 essence in 3 divine persons. 1 what and 3 whose. It is a mystery. We will get to it. But we've already found one heresy that we must avoid. We cannot call the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit 3 different parts of God, 3 different pieces that need to add up together to make God, because God is absolutely simple.